Shalom, Yahaba Shem Yahshua Brakatah, Yahweh Shema Thamba Shem Yahshua. Hold on, let me get the mic right. There's an Isupk, started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. And we're here to teach the truth of the Bible for so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians that, according to the scriptures, they are the real Israelites. And we're going to be talking today about the ancient, or the bars of the ancients. This is ancient hip hop that we're talking about right here. And when you go into the book of Psalms, you have to start looking at it like that. This ain't no Christian, church song book. You understand? When we're reading in the book of Psalms, we're reading about music that was authorized by King David, that was presented for the whole nation of Israel to keep on record. And the things that are talked about in these records are so important because it echoes even to today as far as how relevant it is in our societies and our communities. We've been doing this particular segment or series of classes, battle rap bars of the ancients. This is part 3. Part 3 of this class, we've been going over Psalm 140. There's a lot of other Psalms that I do want to get into, so perhaps this could be an extended series that'll go into other chapters, but particularly this chapter, Psalm 140, is right on time with what we're talking about right now with the things going on in our communities. So it's important for us to hold on to truth. It's important for us to hold on to real hip hop, because that's not something that's new. Hip hop didn't start in the late 80s and the 90s. Hip hop started in the ancient days when the nation of Israel needed music that was going and lyrics that were going to inspire us to be aware of the things that were around us. You understand? And so, reading what we had last class, we got all the way to verse 4 and 5. And we definitely took up a lot of the screen because we wanted to write as large as we can. We'll probably keep that same cadence today and probably try to do another couple verses to see how we do. And then, of course, we'll break it all down so that we can get a good understanding of each word. You can also see a couple things for those that are newer to the classes. We have the ancient Paleo-Hebrew alphabet right here, which is the one that we use during the class, and the pronunciation of each character. We also have some of the rules that we have up here that will apply towards some of these conjunctions and these groups of characters. When I go over certain words, you'll notice that I always try to outline the root word, and then we have the other words that are on the left and right side. That would be the prepositions on the right, the possessive adjectives on the left, and we start to see how they correlate throughout the sentence structure so that we can get a good understanding of these rules as we get more examples of precepts, okay? Another thing, too, is the vocabulary, which we've been adding to our vocabulary, you understand? Just adding more and more to that over time so that we have a good understanding of some of the words that we're going into, the ones that stand out the most. We try to hold record on that. So definitely in your notes, you want to give room so that you can write those things down. As we've been continuing in Psalm chapter 140, what we aim to do is we aim to have the whole chapter written down in Hebrew, okay, broken down into the English with the root words and everything. But then what I want you to do once we have this whole entire chapter completed is to go ahead and get a fresh sheet of paper and then actually write down just the Hebrew by itself on a separate page. So once we get through all the way to the end of the chapter, that'll be a good way for you to actually write down a whole new prayer. We're going to start adding more because this is technically a prayer. We call it psalm. It's basically lyrics. But these are lyrics to the Most High, which can be recited very similar to what a prayer is recited, just like Psalm chapter 83 or Psalm the ones that we say during the Sabbath service and during the High Holy Days. So this is no different than that. There's nothing wrong with having more prayers, you understand, and having more Hebrew under your belt so that you can really stand out as far as understanding your language. Okay, what I'll do is, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on the board real quick so y'all can see, and then we're going to read what we went over last time, okay? Let's see here. Let's get it. I just want to make sure that the stream is going well. So hold on, let me go ahead and check the live stream. Make sure to like and share the class too. Always want to do that. Let's see. Make sure the audio is coming through. Just want to make sure that there we go. There we go. Yeah, bear with me 1 second. We'll be continuing. We're gonna do our basically our follow up from last class. We'll be reading this real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get into the lesson today. All right, all right. And also, just be sure to check into the class. Type your name, type the city you're coming from, type the Hebrew greeting, so that we can lock that in as far as the attendance, so we can keep that on record. Let's go ahead and read what we had last class. So, starting from the top here, now let's read it in English first, so we can get an understanding of what it is that we're breaking down. It says, "Keep me, Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked, from men of violence preserve me, who have purposed to make stumble my steps." Verse 5, "Have hidden the proud a snare for me, and cords/bands they have spread a net by the wayside, traps they have set for me." Salah. This is no different than what we see in our societies, where they try to say, pick up by your bootstraps and try to make something of yourself. While at this very same time, they lay traps for us and things to keep us from actually getting to that success. Blacks and Hispanics, they're less prone to get approved for business loans, less prone to get approved. There had to have been DEI and things that were set in place just for blacks and Hispanics to get certain jobs and things like that, which they have been actually cut back on because of the sake of the political climate right now. So none of this is new to us. It's not a surprise to us. We have to understand that we live our lives regardless of how the others around us treat us. We understand that. We know because of prophecy. We know because of biblical stories and understanding of our history that those things should not surprise us when they come about. We know that we got to follow the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments so that He can prevent us from those dangers. Because ultimately, the Lord's protection is going to be given to those who He sees as those that He's not against. And so we don't want to be against the Most High. We don't want to do anything to upset Him. So that's why it's so important for us to keep those laws so that we can come back to our heritage. That says Shamar Nawa. So like Shamar Naya. This is Yahweh, Ma Yadya, Ra Shai, Ma Ayash, Hamasyam, Thanatazaranya, Ashar, Hashabwa, Ladathwath, Pa'imaya, Tamanwa, Ga'ayam, Path, Laya, Wa Kabalyam, Parashwa, Rashath, Layad, Ma'agal, Maquashiam, Shathwa, Laya, Salah. Let's read it one more time. It says, Shamar Naya, Yahweh, Mayad Ya, Rashai, Ma'ayash, Tamasyam, Thanatazaran Ya, Ashar, Kashabwa, Ladachawath, Pa'imaya, Tamanwa, Ga'ayam, Pach, Laya, Wa Kabalyam, Parashwa, Rashath, Layad, Ma'agal, Maquashyam, Shathwa, Laya, Salah. And again, what we just read was Psalms 140, verses 4 and 5, where it says, "Keep me, Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked, from men of violence preserve me, who have conceived to make stumble my steps. They have hidden, the proud, a snare for me, and cords they have spread a net by the wayside, traps they have set for me." Salah. This is the world that we live in today. This is why blacks and Hispanics, they get nervous when the cops behind them. Not just because even sometimes you still get that even when you don't have no weed in your car, even when you're not breaking any laws. You just like, well, I don't know, maybe they'll profile against me. You know who recently had that? If you don't believe that, how about the three-time undisputed champion of boxing, Bud Crawford, who was pulled over by the police and held at gunpoint? You understand that they had these things set for him. Let him have slipped up and said something or done something sudden, and he would have been more than just one news story. He'd have been a national protest because he would have gotten shot by the police. This is not something that is to be played with. We understand exactly how dangerous it is for blacks and Hispanics just to walk. That's why we're over here reading about, them spreading nets and snares and traps. You understand how many blacks and Hispanics literally have gotten in trouble just for walking somewhere where the enemy tries to deem that we're not supposed to be at, where we're in places where they don't expect us to be, and therefore we shouldn't be there. Well, even though it's our right to be wherever we're at in America, it's crazy how that ends up playing out, right? So just be aware of those things. And we go into verses 5 and 6 today. And of course, what we'll be using is the Bible Hub app. Okay, the Bible Hub app. Let me see. All right. The Bible Hub app, we're going again to Psalm chapter 140. We're going to get some more parts of this prayer so we can get an even deeper understanding of what's being talked about in this chapter. Psalms 104. And this has been an excellent chapter. We talked about a lot already just from the first 5 verses. You understand? This is such a heavy chapter because when we understand and we look at it through the lens of a Hebrew Israelite in today's time, knowing that the music has polluted us, that the music, the drugs, the influence that has spread amongst blacks and Hispanics has been in a way that is completely contrite from understanding the dangers around us and the people that are the heathens that surround us that have these bad intentions towards us, and we try to ignore it for the sake of Christianity. We try to ignore it for the sake of inclusion and coexistence and what's the other word? Complacency and acceptance of other cultures. But the truth is, we're supposed to be holding on to our own culture. We're supposed to be holding on to our own language, our own culture, our own music, our own clothes. That's why in the Isupk and the Commanding General Yohana, I like to call it a self-sustaining culture because we're able to do things that are completely separate from everything else. It feels like a different world. So step into the world of Israel and take a look at some more of these ancient bars that they're spitting from the times of King David. You understand? So let's go ahead and get into verse 6 today. Okay, and let's go ahead and write that down on the board. This is Psalm chapter 140. So it says right here, La Ma Natazach. Ma Na Tazach. La Ma Na Tazach. And of course, we're going to translate afterwards, so we're just writing it down. But when we have just the Hebrew on the board, this is the best time for you to write it down. Just make sure to give space for when we do the breakdown above. Okay, so skip a line if you're using the loose leaf paper. It says, Ma Zamawar. Ma Zamawar. Ma Zamawar. Says, La Dawada. Da Wada. Some bars being spit right here. It says Kala Tazania. Translating this in real time for y'all. You understand? Kala Tazan. Yeah. Kala Tazania. Look at that. That's some beautiful Hebrew right there. You understand? Hebrew that's and the Hebrew language is so direct that even my terrible handwriting doesn't look good. It's not common because my handwriting is normally is just absolutely trash, but it looks good in Hebrew though. I'll tell you that much. Chalatazanya Yahweh. Let's continue. Yahweh. That's the Most High's name. We of course know that. Ma Adam. Ma Adam. Hopefully this marker don't give out on me. Ma Adam. Ra'ai. Damn it, messed up. My apologies, y'all. I was writing verse 1. I'm tripping. Y'all gonna have to scratch all this that I just wrote. That's too wild. I jumped ahead and just started translating. That's just kind of the mode that I get in sometimes. I'm jumping down to verse 6. Salakia. Verse 6. Mar Rathia. There we go. Salakia for that, y'all. Amorath. Yeah. So just letting y'all know we were writing verse 1 by accident. We had done that a few classes ago. So I erased that. This is verse 6 now. This is where we're actually at. So Salakia for that. La Yahweh. Look how quickly we'll refill this board here. La Yahweh. You understand? Aliyah. Atha. Ha'izayana. Ha'izayana. Yahweh. Yahweh. Quawal. Quawal. Tha. Tha. Thachan. Hold on, let me write this down. This next one is a little tricky. Tha. Ka. Na. One. Yeah. Ka. Na. One. Yeah. Okay. Ka. Na. One. Yeah. That's the end of verse 6. We'll go straight into verse 7. Right here. It says Yahweh. That's how it starts off. Verse 7. I might need to give a little bit more space. Hold on, Salakia. scoop down just a little bit. When you write in the Hebrew, you get into the habit of writing. It's basically like writing in all caps. Yeah, how well. Yeah, how well. Danya. This is like saying Adawan. This is just how it's pronounced with the modern Hebrew flair on it. Adan. Yeah. Adanya. It's almost like saying Adawanya. You know what I'm saying? So it means Lord. We'll break that down in a minute. Adanya. Then it says Isaiah. Isaiah. Yashawaita. Next one is Sakatha. 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 Like that. La Ra'ashya. La. By your warm. Nadak. My apologies if the writing's a little light. This particular marker is not at 100%. I'll be replacing these pretty soon. So by next class, don't worry about it. This one should be acting up a little better, so we use it for the translation. Let's go ahead and read what we have in the Hebrew, just for the sake of practicing it and seeing it in the pure Hebrew before we go ahead and break it down. This is Psalm chapter 140, verse 6 and 7. It reads, Amarathya la Yahweh, alayah, atha, ha'azayana, ha'azaniya, Yahweh, kwawal, tachanawanya, Yahweh, Adanya, Isaiah, Yashawaithaya, Sakatha. Oh, hold on. Let me get the door. Okay, it's logging. Start at the top of verse 7 again. Yahweh, Adanya, Isaiah, Yashawaithaya, something like that. Sakatha, La Ra'ashya, Bayawam, Nashak. That's my name, Nashak. Let's see. Nashak. So what is it that we're saying? Let's go ahead and get the English breakdown now. We're going to go ahead and break this down word for word. Okay. First part right here is where it says Amarathya. Amarathya. This is speaking in first person. Okay. Amar is the word for say, to say something. So the root word is amar. This is the root word. Okay. Now, when you're saying to somebody else, I said, meaning a past tense version of the word say, you're saying, I'm a Rath Yah. I'm a Rath Yah. Where's the Yah? It's a possessive adjective meaning my or me. This is what makes it plural. You have the Rath there, the Tha is added, and the Yah is added. I believe the Tha is added to make it past tense, but then the Yah is added to make it my saying. So while you have Amar, Amar is, of course, to say. Amarath means said, but Amarath Yah means I said. So that's what it's going to translate to. It's going to say I said. To Yahweh. This is where the root word Yahweh comes into play. We know this. Like, give me a second. Excuse me, y'all. Where it says Yahweh, that means the Most High, Yahweh. But the la in front of it means to. Keep that in mind when you're speaking to somebody. You pray to the Most High, and you're actually writing down that you're saying something to the Most High. You say La Yahweh, meaning to the Most High, to Yahweh. And that's where the la comes into play. Okay. You see it right here because the preposition la means to or with or for, I believe. Then it says Alayah. Alayah. Allah means God. And in this case, we'll keep it capital because we know it's talking about the Most High God. But the word Allah just means power, technically. So we technically you can say, because the Yah's right here says Allah Yah, it's saying my God or my power. If you want to be direct with the translation, it's perfectly fine. To Yahweh, my God. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that just so you Muslims can't pretend that you have an L or W there because this is Hebrew. The word Allah does come from Hebrew and it just means power. Just like how Allah Hayam means powers, which would represent the Most High and the order that He has over the angels. Like in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, Atha, you, and in parentheses are. This is just what it shows in the translation. Atha means you, just like when we say Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shabrak. Atha, Atha, this is it right here. It means you. And it's the whole thing. Well, this one, the root word is la. Okay. So what we have right so far is Amarathya, La Yahweh, Alayah, Atha. Amarathya, La Yahweh, Alayah, Atha. It almost like it rhymes naturally. That's why I love Hebrew, man. It just sounds like it's heavy the whole time and it rhymes. Every word damn near rhymes with its other word. So it's just constantly rhyming. Ha-a-za-yana. 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 The root word here is azan. Now we can break it down. Now we can understand. Now, ha-a-za-yan. That's fine. So what this is saying is it's saying here. I said to Yahweh, my power, you are. It says you here. This doesn't need to be. I don't know why it translated like that. You hear Yahweh, the voice of my supplications. So this is right here. This is the same thing as right here. It just doesn't have the la in front of it. So the root word is Yahweh, again, which is the Most High's name. Quawal. Quawal means the voice. The voice. Boom. The voice. Quawal. Quawal. You understand? Quawal. It means bleeding, crackling, cry, sound, voice, thunder, proclamation. What kind of voice? This whole entire verse is just an introduction or a continuation, but just lays completely flat that he's praying to the Most High. This makes it perfectly clear. He says, I said to Yahweh, my power, you hear, Yahweh, the voice, and then this is the main word of this, of course, aside from the Most High's name. This is the subject matter. The voice, and it says of my supplications. This is a pretty long word. Let's see what the heck this means. The root word here is thakanawan. So it's this whole thing right here. Thakanawan. And this word means supplication, more entreatment, or earnest prayer. That's a good one. This right here is prayer. A supplication is a earnest prayer. Okay. Thakanawan. Thakanawan. Now he's saying my supplication, so he's saying Thakanawan Yah. You add the Yah at the end so that you're speaking in first person. You're saying this is my prayer. Okay. And that's pretty straightforward. I'll sign Christ for that. Let's continue here. We're going to break this down nice and steady. This is Yahweh again. Yahweh. Let's see. Yahweh. And then it says Adanya. It says the Lord. Technically, he's saying Yah, meaning my Lord. So I'm going to correct this here. Adan is another way of saying Adawan. There's just no wa between the da and the na. So technically, you could say Adawan Yah to say my Lord, but this is saying Adanya. It means the same thing. Okay, Adanya. You know what? We'll erase these, and we're gonna put new vocabulary words from this section that we're doing today at the end. Okay, that way we can get some more vocabulary. But we'll do that here in a minute. So Yahweh, Adanya. This is of course the full bracket. I hope that this isn't too much clutter. I know that when we do these classes, there's a lot on the screen. I'll be getting, and I said this last time, but I actually didn't get it. I'll be getting a whole new set of markers so we can really differentiate what's what. But I want you to understand that the main blue, the deeper blue, that's the Hebrew phrase. And then the lighter tone blue is the translation with the brackets outlining the root word. So if you're learning the vocabulary, focus on what's in the bracket. That'll give you the root word. Amar, Yahweh, Allah, Atha, and then everything on the outskirts of it follows these rules right here. Give me 1 second. Let me just check the chat quick. Shalom, Yahweh, the young man Dawa next in the chat. Hope you brothers get a chance to really dive into this Hebrew. It'll be necessary for when you end up in here, doing the Sabbath services, reading the Hebrew. It'll give you that much of a head start with being able to understand these characters. You understand? Now, mind you, the Hebrew that we read during the Sabbath services, the alphabet on the right side. But if you can learn this foundation right here, you'll be that much more prepared to learn that one as well. Because when we learn the Hebrew in the Isupk, we learn two alphabets at the very same time. And the same dialect, we don't use the modern dialect. That actually makes it a lot easier to learn because it's more Ebonic, like the way Black and Hispanics turn any language into a shorthand version of the language that we're forced to speak. This is, of course, not something that you're forced to speak, but I highly recommend you do because it belongs to you. Okay. Isaiah is the next one right here. It says the strength. I believe there's brothers in the school that have this as a part of their name. Isaiah. It's just those two. Isaiah. Isaiah. We're used to saying "oh" when we see this character here. It actually is a pictogram. It represents your eye. Okay. And that ain't on no conscious community type shit. It's really just that's what an eye looks like. No different than the ah is representative of a cattle head. You know what I'm saying? So Hebrew is a meme language, meaning it's a hieroglyphic type of language. Now we got Ya Shawai Taya. Ya Shawai Taya. This is the root word Ya Shawai. This is I'm gonna go ahead and just keep this part right here because there's a little bit more that's added to it. And you know what? This is definitely gonna be one that we put in the vocabulary list for today. So we'll break that down here in a minute. But Ya Shawai Taya. This is actually saying the word salvation. But what it's saying is of my salvation, of my salvation, of my salvation. You understand? Ya Shawai Taya, of my salvation. And then it goes on and says Sakatha. Sakatha says you have covered. The root word here is Sakatha. The root word here is Sak. Sakat. That's interesting. It's not all there. Sakat. This is saying to defend or to cover. You have defended. You could say cover or defended. I like the word defended here, okay? Because salvation is a form of defense to save somebody from destruction. It is like as if they're covering you from destruction or defending you from any impending hurt. So what that's part of Psalm 140 is praying for the Most High's protection. I don't think a lot of people they may gloss over a class like this and see this and be like, oh, okay, so Hebrew. But this is actually not just a weapon, but a defense, a shield. Learning how to say this in Hebrew, I can't stress how important it is and how powerful it is for you to take on your ancient culture, your ancient language, and to say things that get that Most High to send His angels to actually or it commands them to follow after these prayers because again this is an authorized prayer that's in the book of Psalm. So if you were to read this especially in its ancient language, that it has a weight behind it of sincerity and of dire effort on your part to earn the favor of the Lord. And just from saying and reciting these prayers, it's a constant reminder for yourself not to slip up. For somebody to go and read the Hebrew and to read the laws of the Most High, this is something that builds upon you in your mind to where no longer are you going to give in to your lusts because you're constantly reminded of the standard that you're setting by going and learning this Hebrew, by going and reading it and reciting it and changing your life and then thus changing the way that you live. It becomes a part of you. That's why the scriptures is considered the Spirit of the Most High. The tangible form of the Spirit of the Most High is the Bible. And it takes a lot of effort to obtain that spirit because you have to go and you have to read it. And then, of course, reading it in the Hebrew, it's like you're a newborn baby learning how to say and talk and read all over again. And that's the beauty of it because now we're starting to make sense with what we're saying. You understand? Just like when a baby starts to put together words and to put together sentences, this is what we're doing. But we're doing it in an even deeper spiritual way by coming back to the Lashawan Qadash. So, as what we've said, Isaiah, Ya, Shawai, Thaya, Sa, Katha, La, Ra'ashya. La, Ra'ashya. Let's see what this one says. La, Ra'ashya means my head. La, Ra'ash. I believe it's Ra'ash. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So technically, it's saying you have defended my head. Technically, that it says you have defended or covered to my head, but the lie is there. So, yeah, it's technically saying to my head, but it could just say Ra'ashia, and it would just be those two words right there. Ba Yawam. Ba Yawam means in the day. In the day. Ba means in. Yawam, I believe it's this right here. Yawam means day. Ba Yawam. Nashak. Nashak of battle. Nashak. And I believe it's the whole phrase right there. This right here is some excellent Hebrew that we've been able to go over today. We're gonna go ahead and now break down some of the vocabulary words. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase what's here. But before we do, make sure you get these written down in your notes. Mazamawar. Mazamawar means song, poem, set to notes, or an instrumental. Mazamawar. It's interesting too because I look at music like as if it's war. So a song to have the Hebrew phrase war in it, which is what we recognize as a part of the battle, it just makes perfect sense that it ends up talking about battles. You know what I'm saying? So even in our music, it has a certain cadence to it. It has a certain subject matter that has a warfare type of mentality in mind. Mazama war, Hamas, Hamas, and yes, this is exactly what you think it is because the Middle Eastern, um, the extremists that are working on behalf of the Muslims in the Gaza Strip and across the whole world, there are people that are called Hamas. And in Arabic, Hamas means zealous, but in Hebrew, Hamas means violent, unjust, or unrighteous. And that applies not only to the Muslims that are violent, but also, hell, even the Israelis that are doing things behind closed doors and doing things and trying to hide it from the news broadcasters, blowing up news people and stuff and saying that they're Hamas, terrorists in the cells and whatever, man. Like, there's a lot of unjust and unrighteousness going on around the world, and Hamas is technically a word that you can apply to any of them that are committing these acts. Dacha, dacha means thrust down or to trip or overthrow. Dacha. So if you're actually like, see, if you say, for instance, you and the both brothers are watching a UFC fight or a boxing match, like what we just recently seen with Bud Crawford, and he knocks him down, kada, it's like it, dacha. The ha means knockdown. Knockdown. I don't know if it would be considered knockout, but thrust down definitely could fit right into that description. The ha means knockdown. Okay, so some interesting words that we got here. Definitely try to get that in your repertoire. And if you missed it before I started erasing it, just rewind the video a little bit and write it down in your notes. You definitely want to get as much of this vocabulary as you can and start surprising your brothers and sisters with some Hebrew that they may not have caught wind of. And then before you know it, y'all are sharing the culture together. That's what we want. That's what we want to influence brothers that come after us to know the Hebrew even better than we do. So it's no longer just Yahabashim Shabrakatah. We can say that about as fluently as ever. But then when it comes to all this, we're like, nah. No more we doing that. We putting more effort into our culture than ever before. So let's get to it. Amar, Yahweh, Allah. Allah means power. That's a pretty basic one. Tha means you. Azayah means to hear. Yahweh, Kwawal, means voice. Kwawal. Supplication, that's the one I want to get. Tha Kha Nawan. Tha Kha Nawan. Let's write it down. Tha Kha Nawan. Tha Kha Nawan. Tha Kha Nawan. This means prayer. Tha Kha Nawan. Supplication and prayer are interchangeable. Yahweh. Adanya. Then we'll do some other ones. Adan is the same thing as Adawan. Okay? We pronounce it Adawan. It's quite interesting though, because when we say shalom, we don't say shalom, but we say Adawan. But that's not up to me to decide. So go figure. Isaiah means the strength. This is a good vocabulary word right here. Isaiah means the strength. Strength. Oh. Isaiah. Strength. Get some more Hebrew vocabulary. Okay. Hope y'all liking the class. Make sure to share the class as well. Get more of your brothers and sisters that are on your Facebook pages to see this. We definitely want more brothers to see this. Next one we'll go is defend, which is something that is a little bit different than what you see right here, because the root word for defend, let me go to it, or cover is sakaf. Okay, now it looks like this. It goes sa, ka, with another ka right after. Sakaf. Sa, ka. And what this means is it means cover or defend. Cover or defend or protect, same thing. Or fence in. Fence in. Like you think of like a if you have a little dog that likes to run around the yard. A lot of houses don't have a fence in the front yard. They just have an open front. Okay. So if you have a dog, you might have to have them on a leash. But sometimes you might have a dog that's roaming around the front yard that is known to wander around. You might have a fence. That fence is sakat. It's the defense. It protects that dog from outside animals coming to attack them while they're trying to take a shit in the yard. You know what I'm saying? Think about it like that. Most houses do have a backyard fence, though. Not always do they have a front yard fence. But that actually means that. It's pretty straight up. Then we got la ra'ashya. La ra'ashya. Ra'ash means head. Ra'ash means head. Even the word ra actually means head as well. Just that one character, but Ra'ash is the full form of that word. The character Ra does represent a head. Also represents the head of a cattle, but it's more important that it represents the entire cattle, and that's why it looks like it has the little horns on the side. But Ra actually represents a head. Ra'ash is the full version of that word. Then it says Ba Yawam means in the day. Yawam, of course, means day. Okay. The day, what day? Nashak. It's going to be our last vocabulary word for the day. Nashak. 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 And it means battle. Nashak. It could also mean a couple other things. It could also mean military equipment. It could also mean arsenal. It could also mean weapon. Zion also means weapon, but this can mean it as well. The day of weaponry, the day of military equipment, the day of the gun or the sword. That's interesting. So this could technically translate to saying the day of the sword, the day of weapons, the day of battle. It's interchangeable. So Nashak means all those things. Okay. Let's go ahead and make sure I have the root words underlined. My Lord. Here. Oh. Okay. Let me back up here, give y'all a second to write it down. Some trying to kill us, man. Something in the air. Salakia. Good thing y'all are online. You can't catch whatever the hell's trying to kill me. I might have to read this prayer. Psalm chapter 140. Now we're in verse 6 and verse 7. Let's go ahead and read what we got today, and then we'll close out the class like that. I want to keep this on the board for next class. I don't want to erase this because I want to be able to go back over it in the next class. And that's perfectly fine. These are actually slightly shorter verses than what we normally see. Some of these other verses in this chapter are a lot longer. So I try to make the characters a lot larger to fit the screen here. But yeah, we kind of lucked out with that. But that's perfectly fine. I'll go ahead and read what we have today. So in the Hebrew, it's Amarathia la Yahweh alaya ata ha'azayana Yahweh kwawal tachanawanya. Tachanawanya means prayer or supplication. Yahweh Adanya or Adawanya, if you prefer. Isa means strength. Yah Shawai Taya means of my salvation. It says you have defended Sakatha La Ra'ashya, meaning my head. You have protected my neck. Man, let's talk on some Wu-Tang stuff. He's saying the strength of my salvation, you've defended my head. Meaning what? You have kept your head from getting cut off, right? Protected your neck in the day of battle. You talking about this ain't Hebrew ancient battle rap? I can't tell you. I don't know what to tell you. This is Hebrew hip hop right here. And we're reading it in Hebrew. Okay. That's what's heavy about this. Because when you read it fast enough, when you catch that flow, it may start to sound kind of like it rhymes. Ba yawam nashak. Ba yawam nashak. Let's go ahead and try reading it. Let's read it again. Amorathia la Yahweh. Alaya. Atha. Ha'azayana. Ha'azayana. Yahweh. Kowal. Tachanawanya. Yahweh. Adanya. Isa. Yashawa'ataya. Sakatha. La Ra'ashya. Ba Yawam Nashak. That's read that last verse. It says Ba Yawam Nashak. I mean, what we want me to tell you this, the way Hebrew flows is so impressive to me because even just reading it, I feel connected to it just because of the way that I read it. And like I told the brother in our last, was it during the Day of Atonement, when we were reading the prayer, I said, read it like you're a Native American at a powwow, and you'll start to catch on to how the flow is. Okay, because if there's one ethnicity within the children of Israel, I guess you could say that the tribes, the North American Indians, they have a very spiritual approach to their language and their speech and the way they talk and the way that they act. That is very much so tied to their ancient ways, even if it's not completely locked in with the ancient Hebrew, that a lot of it kind of has that flow to it. And so we appreciate them for holding on to as much of the culture as they could throughout their generations. And so when we go and we read this vocabulary words, think about that too. So thakanawan, thakanawan is prayer. Thakanawan. Isa means strength. Isa. Sakak means cover, defend, protect, or fence in. Then it says Nashak, which means military equipment, arsenal, or weapon. All right, we're going to read it one more time. Amarathya la Yahweh alaya ata ha'izayana Yahweh kwawa tachanawanya Yahweh Adanya Isa Yashawa'ataya Sakatha La Ra'ashya Ba Yawam Nasha. Now, right there is Psalm chapter 140, verses 6 and 7. It's been my honor to show you these verses today. I created a playlist on our YouTube channel, Isupk San Antonio, that is putting a compilation of the Psalm 140 classes together. I'll have to update the title just to specifically say Psalm 140 because I think this will be an ongoing thing. I want to get more chapters that go into some heavy points, and we'll continue to break this down because I think we're a little bit past the halfway point on this chapter here. So there should be at least 12 or 13 verses in total. So we'll continue to break it down until we get the full Hebrew breakdown. You understand? And so again, what we said was, I said to Yahweh, my power, you hear, Yahweh, the voice of my prayer. Yahweh, my Lord, the strength of my salvation. You have defended my head in the day of battle. That's excellent. That's an excellent prayer right there. That's so important that we get back to our ancient heritage and understand that music is warfare. It's a part of our warfare. It's a part of our defense and our offense. It is a strength of our culture. And that is why in the Isupk, the Commanding General Yohana, you're going to see us excel exceedingly in learning the ancient Hebrew as close to the ancient dialect as we possibly can. And with that, this is the Isupk, started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana, started in 1969. Shalom.